Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Accepting Reality. Jake, how you doing?
Good. Live on location
Live on
right
location.
now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
new spin. Hopefully, it doesn't mess up anyone's listening experience too badly. I just heard
that's
some
right.
birds. All right.
We're we
Well,
we are live. Is this live?
this is live. Yeah, live recording.
Okay. All right.
Um, well, unfortunately, while we're starting out on a happier note, we're primarily going to talk about the tragedy that happened yesterday. So we're filming this on Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, and yesterday in Uvalde, Texas, a 18-year-old, I will not say his name because I will not give any fame or notoriety to a mass murderer. Um, he was 18 years old. He went into a elementary school. I don't remember the elementary school's name, and he killed 18 kids. He shot his grandmother yesterday morning. I believe she has died from her wounds, and two other teachers. So that's 21 or 22 victims. And before we get into any more discussion, I just wanted to say a little prayer that Catholics, we say that pretty frequently. I know I say it after I say grace before meals, and it goes like this. Um, Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and may the perpetual light shine upon them. May their souls and all the souls of the faithful departed through the mercy of God rest in peace. Amen. Um, yeah, just overall pretty tragic. Uh, I don't think they said any victim was over the age of 10. So just imagine 10-year-olds going to school and now you're making funeral arrangements for them. Um, Obviously, Jake and I will be praying for the victims because despite what some very disturbing things where people said thoughts and prayers don't matter anymore, we just need action. How anti-Christian and anti-God are we going to become in this nation to where people saying they're going to pray for the most horrific things that some people will ever endure? We're going to pray so that God gives them graces to help them is not enough anymore. That's not good enough. I don't know where we're headed with that. I don't think that's the right idea at
Right.
all. We should all be praying. So
Yeah, I think no matter what side you're on, because whenever this sort of thing happens, everyone jumps to the political aspect of it because it's got to be all about guns.
yep.
But I think the commonality is that no matter if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, you you view this as a tragedy. This wasn't a good thing in any way. Like you said, these kids are 10 years old. School's almost out. They had a week or two left, not even. Summer vacation, plans with their family, everything, and here they are
They're gone.
going to school where they think they're gonna, just have a normal day, and then this happens. So, no matter if you're Republican, Democrat, you do view this only in a way of how tragic it is.
Yeah, and I wrote something and I posted it for our DJ Media followers on Facebook is that we often look for fancy words to describe things and try to sound refined and stuff like that. But in this situation, the simplest word and the simplest way to describe it is the correct way: pure sadness. I mean, I could not fathom being a father and getting a call saying your son was killed. You're never going to see him again. Well, I believe I would see him again, but you're never going to see him again on this earth with you. Like, that's done. And I imagine now, God willing, hope to be a father one day. Um, I would imagine when when the child is born, you have all these thoughts about the future. 10 years old, they're starting to get their own interests. They have their own personality. They're starting to become an individual mind. And I've got to think as a father or a parent, you're like, oh, there's potential here, or I could see what my child can become. And I see parts of me in this child, and I just feel enthralled by it. And then it's all ripped away. And in the matter of 30 minutes, this all happens. So before everyone jumps to political conclusions, I seriously urge people to take a step back, think about it, meditate on what happened, and truly let your mind settle on what these people are going through. Do you think these parents really want to hear what Joe Biden has to say about assault weapons after their kids died? I mean, I wouldn't. Do you think?
Right.
But it's
Right.
just leave them
I
alone.
mean,
Let it be sad. Let it all happen. It drives me crazy.
well, I think it's There's two things that always happen, and with stuff like this, and you kind of said it's the first thing about when they talk about no um, no prayer. Prayers, it doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything until we do something ourselves, and that's the saddest part about it. And then the second part that always seems to occur is when they just, not even an hour after news breaks about a situation like this, it's just right away. It's pointing fingers. It's blaming one party over another, one governor's decision 10 years ago for not voting this way. I mean, like you said, if I was a parent and my child, had this happen to them, I would be so angry just by people belittling what happened, just to use it as a platform to speak about whatever issue they want to speak out on. And it just shows, the priorities people have, in this country, and especially on Twitter and social media.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to people who, like, I saw there was a like, Governor Abbott, governor of Texas, had a press conference. Within 3 minutes of the press conference ending, Representative Eric Swalwell, who is not a very good person, he said that he wishes he could tell his three kids that America will be a safe place for them, but he cannot, and this is all by GOP design. Now, I paraphrase that. Don't quote me and call me sue me for defamation. It's a paraphrase. I didn't get his tweet word for word, but the concept and the intent and context of that tweet is rather disgusting. And I'm also upset, and many people on the right who the first thing that you see when this shooting happens is we need more armed guards in schools. That's nice that you think that needs to happen, and personally I agree with it, but why don't you save that for, I don't know, maybe an hour past the death of all these kids? I'm not, it's
Yeah.
just crazy. Like, let the tragedy be a tragedy. Let us mourn, let us pray for the families, let us try to do what we can, let them heal, and then think about realistically what to do next from a country standpoint and legislative standpoint. It just, it grinds my gears.
Yeah. I mean, it's, any professional clinician or doctor would tell you, um, don't make any rash decisions when you're very emotional, when you're at a high emotional state.
Yeah.
And that's all that they want to do. They want to just make decisions based upon the present, and they like to go to the extreme about, well, if we had done this, this would never have happened, which is so hard and so impossible to determine with something like this. This is the ideas that they have, I think, one, are incomplete. If you were to ask somebody, well, what would your plan be? It's either all or nothing, or they don't
Yep.
have any true idea of what they would
Yep.
want to do. And second, like you said, it's just a jumping to conclusions. There's no fact checking. It's just, let's just talk about the moment, and we're just gonna use it, like I said, as a platform to whatever we want to bring up. And this is going to be, our crusade, and no one's going to stop us. And there's just such anger about it. But I think that it also gives people, like the Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr last night, gives them a place to show fake anger. I know he's very vocal about gun violence and different issues in the country, which is great. Albeit for him to be vocal, that's what we need. But you can tell in his press conference before the game in the NBA playoffs yesterday, he used it only for this scenario, this tragedy, which I understand. But you can tell his anger was somewhat fake. He used it to be a tough guy and to be the first person to publicly come out and say something, and somebody of prominence. And he knew that a lot of people were going to be watching. And, again, it's just, the blame is all on one thing. It's all on one group. And Democrats always talk about Trump dividing the country.
Yep.
And everything that he did. And that's all that they do. Because if you go back at the timeline of any famous person with Twitter, any prominent politician, yesterday around 2 o'clock Eastern time, guarantee you're going to see a lot of Republicans this, Republicans that. Yep. And it's all that they're doing. They're just dividing people more and more and more, because now if you're a Republican, you're for guns and you're a baby killer because you could have stopped it if you didn't believe in guns.
And that's the funny thing. you know, you and I are both absolutely pro Second Amendment. I mean, we've only done 14 episodes, but I'm sure that is pretty solid for anyone who's listening. We have nothing to do with some psychopath, which now it's come out. This is per the New York Post and a few other publishers. If people want, I can link these to the episodes when we upload them. He was into self-harm. He would cut his wrist and his face several times, and the way he described it is he would enjoy it. It would feel good. That's the first sign of being mentally disturbed. He worked at a Wendy's, and the fellow employees didn't want to associate with him, especially if they were female, because he made them uncomfortable. I think we can figure that one out why. He acquired a gun illegally. So that's a crime. That's already a crime. So he's already a felon. Okay. He had purchased two
Hmm.
rifles at the age of 18. That's legal in Texas. Okay. Yes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He also used a handgun in this shooting that they're not talking about, because as much as I don't want to admit it, there is a clear-cut agenda from the left, and the left uses the mainstream media to push this anti-gun agenda, and they will always point out if the shooter had an assault rifle. You won't know what the weapon is unless it's in a rifle, because that's their new sticking point, because it's mean and big and scary. And it's sad that they do that and the voters are manipulated by it, but it's true. It works. They've seen the numbers in the past. I pray that it changes. Um, this person got into the occult. This person was into Satanism. These are all testimonials from people who have been interviewed in the last day and a half. So this person was far from your standard conservative pro-life right-winger that apparently it is our fault for what he did, which couldn't be further from the truth. If anyone tries to say it, you should kindly rebuke them, because you are nothing. Anyone who believes in the Second Amendment and believes in the Constitution of America is not in any point, any way to blame for what this psychopath did yesterday afternoon.
Well, it goes back to the whole thing of it's all about taking ownership and responsibility. There's when something like this happens, there is no ownership given to the perpetrator. They are evil, they are an animal, which is all true, but the reasoning and the ability that was given to them to do such an act, the gun being available, that has nothing to do with their choice. It all has to do with other people's choices, meaning the right, the NRA,
Yeah.
all that, which is the worst conclusion you can come to. Because if I was to sit here and say that an illegal immigrant committing a murder in Georgia of a high school senior, I think it was last year, and she had just graduated high school, and she had gotten a scholarship to Alabama, and an illegal alien who had been, I think, in what's that gang called? MS-13.
MS-13. Yeah.
Yeah, he had kidnapped her and killed her, and they couldn't find her body for 3 weeks, and they finally did. Well, if I was to say to somebody on the left, well, see, that means that everybody who comes into here illegally is a possible killer, and we need to have no immigration laws at all. We need to keep them completely out of the country. They'd call me a bigot. But they can take the other road and say that because this one person committed a crime with guns, all guns are evil and we need to shut them down.
Yeah. It's a complete logical fallacy. It's very sad. You know, I don't know what to tell people if your first reaction to 18 kids under 10 years old and under was killed was, we need to change gun laws. That's your first response. I think that shows a lot about your own character.
Right.
I think your first reaction should be, oh my goodness gracious, I will pray. I'm so sorry. This is a tragedy. We should be praying for them. We should find ways to help out the families. The first answer shouldn't be, see, this is why you right wingers are causing all the problems in America. Oh, look, they had a heartbeat. Why aren't you worried about them, you stupid pro-lifers? It's like, give me a break. We didn't do this. This was a sick and twisted person.
Well, right. And again, kind of, I was going to touch on that. You kind of just did it. These celebrities and these uh, people with prominence in the media are crying and are saying that this is heartbreaking, which it is. But you don't see them crying for any of the aborted babies, the
Nope.
millions over the last whatever it is, 52 years or 58 years or whatever it is. You don't hear that.
You never will, because that's not their it's not their agenda. And it's really sad, because I wish there would be something that would click in their head about thinking just, wow, this is a really big loss of life, and we should focus on that, as opposed to how can we take away one of the founding constitutional rights in this country. Um,
Yeah.
and the next, we've talked a lot about the current response from the other people, and I want to lead towards why these things seem to become more and more commonplace in America. Because if in a normal society this shouldn't happen, but when you have a society that is completely degenerate and you're taught to be proud of your degeneracy, um, you completely bankrupt of all morality and all basic common decency. This is what happens, and this is the end of it. This is what, like, the symptoms, not the disease, so to speak. This kid didn't have a father. Father was not involved. And I told my wife when I was reading the stories and watching the news yesterday, I said, I will bet every dollar that I have to my name that this kid's father was not around. And I was right, because it is more
Right.
times than not, when you don't have a family, when it's a broken family, it makes it way easier to have mental health issues, to have other issues. And we saw it, sadly, yet another statistic example, which is sad. Um, now this, I don't know if it's true. I was just listening to a few conservatives who were saying this, who apparently received this news that this the shooter's mother was a drug addict, and her son were getting evicted from their grandmother's house. So the kid snapped and killed his grandmother, and then went and shot up the school.
Okay.
I don't know if that's completely true. Again, don't allegedly. Everyone, calm down, fact checkers. Um, but if that is the case, then it's even more proof that this is a broken kid, and a broken family. Because I mean, we need to realize there's some gaping holes in our society, and you can see how it affects the youth. Like, that's
Well, what do you think? Because a lot of people are going to end up, I don't know if they have said it. I haven't heard, but what would you say to the people that are going to say, well, this is in Texas. This is a Republican state. What would you do to a state like this that has had this tragedy happen? And they don't have strict gun laws. They don't have all these regulations that other states like Illinois and New York and California have, and yet this still happened.
I would tell him that I don't think it would have made a difference. He was proven he was already going to break the law. He had a handgun. You can't get a handgun until you're 21 years old. So it didn't matter. It really
Well, I
did.
mean, it's again, no matter what state they're in, that shouldn't matter because it's a person's responsibility
Yeah.
for their own action.
And there is no responsibility anymore in our society, and you can see it with the youth. I mean, this person was 18 years old. I know that's apparently the legal adult and legal age of consent. You're not an 18. No, very, very few people are adults at 18 years old, without a doubt. With our society, with
Right.
how we're raised, highly, highly likely he was considered mature enough to be an adult. And then you have social media, completely destructive towards anyone's mental psyche. It's proven time and time again, but nobody cares. We just keep funneling money to Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. Well, Jack Dorsey's step was gone today. My bad. Um, then you have the schools, public schooling system, which is nothing more than an indoctrination facility where they teach perverted materials. They encourage perversion. They do not have any sense of morality or any sense of moral compass. Um, and they also, you see, in the combination, you get taught this idea that toxic masculinity. You are a problem just because you are a man, and if you act
Yeah.
manly, you're a problem. So you need to stop being yourself. You are the problem. Imagine if you every day, someone 35 times said you need to stop being just you. You are the problem. There's nothing that you're doing. It's just you existing as the problem. What do you think that does to a young person's psyche?
Yeah. I know. I'm looking here. I wanted to see if there's anything new on social media. that about this whole issue. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, here's a story that says guns banned at NRA conference in Texas where Trump is set to speak. Somebody writes, hypocrites, if guns don't kill people, then what's the problem with having them at the NRA meeting? This has nothing to do with anything. Let's see. Let's go to Occupy
Copycat
Democrats.
killers.
Let's see. Trying to find something here. Oh, here we go. Oh, because you know Occupy Democrats always has something to say.
I call them the laughing stock of the internet, but
okay, this is do you know that meme Willy Wonka?
yes, with his hand
Okay.
on his head on his
Yeah.
hand. Yeah.
Right. So this is, so you say cars kill more people than guns? Okay, you're right. So to get a gun, let's now require licenses to prove competency, registration, insurance, education for misdemeanors, suspension of license for multiple offenses, and lengthy jail time for weapons under the used under the influence. So now we're taking a vast difference of crimes committed because cars kill so many more people than guns do. And now we're going to apply the consequences done to that towards guns. Again, it's all just whatever fits the narrative. It's the exact same thing. We need to make everything like something else. No, nothing can be different. They all have to be the same.
And the sad thing is, and this is what a Democrat, I think they hear this and they shriek. Guns are rights. A car is a privilege. There is no constitutional right for you to drive a car anywhere. There's no constitutional right for you to own a car. So the state, while I do think they overbear in some ways, they have a right to enforce those laws.
Yeah. I mean, if people thought that insurances were not a good idea, if regulations, licenses, all that, then that would be an issue that they would take to their state.
Yep.
But nobody thinks that that's nobody, unless it's a small population, thinks that all those requirements to drive are bad ideas. But to then use that on the other side and say that we do the same thing for guns because they kill less people, that makes no sense. Absolutely makes no sense.
Yep. I agree. And it's a sad thing that they keep using. I was pretty surprised at how short President Biden spoke. Maybe he was too tired. I don't know. But all they talked about was that we need to stand up to the gun lobby, when actually last election cycle, Big Pharma gave about $300 million in donations, where the gun lobby gave about 17 million. So I don't know why the hell we're standing up to a lobby that does maybe 1/10 of what the biggest one does. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
$300 million plus from pharmaceuticals compared to 17 million from gun associations. I mean, give me a break.
Well, you want to hear what AOC has to say about this whole thing?
Sure, she's too busy planning her wedding to say anything smart, but I'd love to hear it.
She says, quote, there is no such thing as being pro-life while supporting laws that let children be shot in their schools, elders in grocery stores, worshipers in their houses of faith, survivors by abusers, or anyone in a crowded place. It is an idolatry of violence, and it must end.
So I still, and like you said, they can't answer your questions. What law allowed this person to do this? Because it's illegal to murder. It's illegal to bring guns onto the school. There's a Texas law, actually, Texas only. Within 300 feet of a school, you're not allowed to bring a weapon. Okay, so that's state law. So if you haven't figured it out yet, the criminals and evil people, and there are some evil people out there. I hate to break it to everybody's happy little bubble world. There are some evil people that exist, and they will do evil just to do evil. This guy, there is a law. There's a basic law. You can't shoot people. It's all 50 states and Puerto Rico, I'm sure. Well, I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, it just shows that, again, they're taking the far extreme. It's the same thing about COVID, that if you don't wear a mask, you're going to get COVID and die. Same thing.
Well, I mean, if you don't, well, they're doing the thing. If you don't give up your guns, you're a danger to me. And that's the one I love. If you don't stop supporting as Steve Kerr my new least favorite head coach. Him and Greg Popovich are battling for the bottom. Uh, if you don't, if you support those 50 senators who are holding us back just to hold on to their power, according to that idiot, you're the problem. You're the reason that teachers are so scared, and mothers and fathers. Listen, if I have kids, they will not step foot in a public school ever,
Absolutely not. Absolutely
ever.
not.
Besides the rampant impurity and degeneracy and horrificness that I have seen, the fact that there is no thought for security, there's no thought to accept the real world of violence and evil that we have created because we have let our society become this decayed and this unhinged, without acknowledging that and saying we're going to protect our kids. Because whether people want to admit it or not, the only protection against an evil person with the gun is another gun. You can't
Yeah,
you
because
can't knock them out any other way unless you
because
come up behind them.
you're never going to truly stop somebody's decision making once they've crossed that line.
Yep.
Other than fighting back. I mean, it's like, for instance, to say that these kind of things happen because we have so many guns. It goes back to my original question. Okay, what are you going to do? Because there's so many. I mean, I don't know how many guns there are in this country legally. I think there's like
400 million, I believe.
Yeah, it's insane.
That was 2 years ago.
So if you're going to say that we need to get rid of them altogether, you say we need to take away the ones that are already out there. We need to do a buyback. We need to go door to door. That's never going to happen. So really, what is your plan? They don't have one. They just live in the moment, and it's based off of emotion.
And I remember we've had this conversation a couple times. If they ever try to do a door-to-door confiscation of guns, you might as well start the Second American Revolution now. Start writing it in your history books, because that would start it. That would have somebody march on the Capitol and shoot every politician. I'm serious. I could, it would get so ugly so quick if they tried that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Officer Talley
We did
a couple
yeah.
months ago, and a lot of people on the left, including Occupy Democrats, used his picture and his death to do the same thing, to say that guns need to be limited and they need to be, so far regulated that nobody can even get one. And myself and a lot of people who personally knew him came ahead and said, you have no idea what you're saying. This guy would have been the first person to say that he wishes somebody there at that grocery store in Denver would have had a gun to fight with him. I mean, there's absolutely no way that he would have said anything different. So to take that example and apply it to all this, have metal detectors in the school, have armed guards, have people that are trained with gun safety and gun tactics when there's a shooter. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say now that, well, all we've done is we've taught kids how to avoid, or what do they call it, training for when a shooter shows up on a property or a school. That right there, that's not a bad idea. It may prevent a lot more lives being lost, because any person that's in it's ex-military, that's been in special operations, anybody that's been in any kind of law enforcement will tell you that to be prepared as much as you can be, to learn tactics, to avoid and evade, to fight, to do whatever you can, to, even if it means prolong your life 5 minutes, you do it. It doesn't, because you don't know when your life's going to end. So if you're in a situation where there's a school shooter and here you are and you've learned something that's going to give you the extra second, that might be the only second you need. I mean, I remember hearing about a guy who went to Columbine.
Yep.
And he was, however the school was structured, he went down a hall because he heard shooting. And a lot of the kids, when they heard the shooting outside, when the two kids were coming in the school, they thought it was like a prank, and they thought it was, fireworks, whatever. And so he kind of went down the hall and he saw, I would say maybe, I don't know how he described it, but I would imagine maybe a couple hundred feet from him on the other side of the hall. And he kind of stopped and looked at him, and the guy turned, and the kid looked and shot at him, and he missed him by probably, 6 inches, 12 inches. I mean, you right there, he even said, if I had taken one more step, if I had peeked my head out a little further, I'd be dead. And so that you never know how far away or how close you are to dying. So any kind of training you can get that's going to prolong your life, no matter how long it is, because you never know, is incredibly valuable. So all these people, including the 5 chickens on The View, that are saying that Republicans, all they do is give people or give kids bulletproof backpacks and training about how to avoid a school shooter. You're not going to give a 10-year-old a gun. So why not give him the training he needs that's going to last him a lifetime to avoid a situation if it ever happens?
You know, it boggles my mind because those people who say Republicans are, they don't care about kids once they're born, school shooting, yada, 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 insert catchphrase here. I live in the real world, and the name of this podcast is Accepting Reality. Why is the left refusing to accept the reality that we have broken people down so far, and we've exponentially done it in the last 2 years, that people are unhinged, and kids are our most valuable things. They are the most precious. They are the most innocent. So why in God's name do we not, I'll quote President Biden, how in God's name do we not have armed security at schools? We just sent
Yeah, yeah.
40 billion to Ukraine. We can't have a federally funded school protection program. Are you kidding me?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, people that are calling for change. I don't know if anybody's noticed. You have a Democrat president in the White House. You have had control in the last 2 years of the 2 major features and branches of government, not branches. What am I looking for? Groups of government in our system, and you have done nothing. And you're quoting, the Buffalo shooting. You're quoting this shooting, and all these mass shootings in the last 6, 8, 12, 15 months. Does anybody want to ever bring up the fact that you're a liberal, you're on the left, and your same party that you have been worshiping and saying for the 4 years that Trump was in office that you cannot wait until they get into office and fix everything? How come they haven't done anything that's fit your standards? How come it's our fault? We haven't been in control. It's all you. So why hasn't anything been done? Is it because it's a lot more difficult to be done because there's a principle in this country that won't allow the Second Amendment to go away so easily? Or are just things more important, like COVID vaccines and assisting aid to Ukraine and all these other things? And if that's the case, if that's more important than your gun laws, then don't talk to me about being pro-life and not caring about kids. Because if you're the one who is supporting politicians that are voting to give Pfizer $72 billion and fund them to get out free COVID vaccines, but they're not going to let insulin be less than $50 a month, then you're a hypocrite.
Absolutely. They're all hypocrites. And it's painfully sad and painfully obvious that half of our country would see our population disarmed. When in the last 122 years has it ended well for a society that has willingly given up their firearms?
That is the number one objective for any
All tyrants.
major dictator in the last 100 years. Most recently, I think it is in the Philippines with Ferdinand Magellan.
Magellan, he died in like the 1600s, but
Ferdinand
okay.
Ferdinand Marco in the Philippines, his first order was to declare martial law to obtain every citizen gun that there was in the country. There was no question about why that was done. There was a specific mean, and it was because he didn't want anybody to fight back.
Yep.
If you take away the guns of citizens, the whole Constitution and anything that's said in the Declaration of Independence goes out the window. I've said it a million times. The Second Amendment is the most important amendment we have in our Constitution because it protects, like you said, it protects all others, it protects the First Amendment, and it protects all the way down. And as somebody who is a supporter of the Second Amendment, I want to tell any liberal or left supporter out there, I don't want everybody to have a gun. That's not what I want at all. I just want anybody who is not a criminal and is a law-abiding citizen to have the opportunity
Yeah.
to have as many guns as possible. If it were me, now this is just my way of thinking. If it were me, I would rather the teacher who had died, the first reported teacher who had died, because apparently the guy had gone into one specific class first and opened fire, locked the door, and locked it. I would rather that teacher, if there was a 2% chance or a 50% chance, I don't care. I'd rather she reach in her desk and pull out a 38 and shoot that guy 6 times in the chest. And we're talking about 2 wounded kids and a hero teacher versus 18 kids dead and 2-3 total teachers, whatever it is.
Yep.
But somebody on a school board or in a legislation room hundreds of miles away decided that that's not something that she can do because it would be too dangerous. Well,
now they're
maybe
dead.
I'm crazy, but I would rather that she was alive, the teacher was alive, and the 18-year-old shooter was not. But, what do I know?
Yeah, I said the same thing. We're getting near, time to wrap this up, but I do want to end on the positive out of this story, and I'm sure you've heard it. The person that actually killed the shooter. Now, originally they said they had him in custody, but when the facts of the situation actually came out, so the shooting started happening, somebody called 911 or someone figured out all the ruckus and all that stuff. The police officers didn't go in right away because they were getting their body armor on. So I'm concerned about that. Anyway, a border patrol agent heard the commotion, saw what happened. He ran headfirst in, didn't get armored up, nothing, and he shot and he got into a gunfight with the killer and he killed him. That man is a hero, and I hope that the stupid people that are in charge of our country right now give him the respect and the honor that is given, because he went in with no backup. No one was there yet. He said, I'm going in. That's an act of pure heroism. He knew his life probably wasn't going to exist past that day, but he did it. And it turns out he probably saved 30, 40, 50 more kids, because this guy was armed to the teeth with ammunition. And if no one was there to stop him with a gun, he would have been gone crazy. So that guy is a true hero. There's really not much more to say about it. He did something that not many human beings can do, and put your life on the line for other people and actually kill another person. So again, I read that story. I'm like, dang, that is the hero. We need to be talking about him. Stop telling me about the shooter's life. Stop telling me about the shooter's name, how old he was. I don't want him to get any credibility. I want him to be in the ground and dead. And I hope that God has mercy on his soul, because he committed one of the most horrendous acts we've seen in a long time.
I don't care why he did it necessarily. When you commit any kind of act of murder, that's a complete violation of nature, and it's inhuman. And he did it upwards of 20 times.
Yep.
I don't want to hear anything about him. He doesn't matter.
He does not. Yeah.
All that matters are the victims, the people that survived, and the first responders that risked their lives and everything to go onto that site, and obviously the families of the victims too, because last time I heard, a lot of the children that had survived weren't all the way accounted for in terms of reuniting with their families, because there's just such a commotion.
All we can do is pray for those that have been killed. We pray for the families that lost someone, that they can move on, and God can give them the strength to move on, because I can't imagine what they really need. Thank you everybody for listening. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at DJ Media. Facebook posts have been increasing, and so go ahead and check those out. We're going to start doing some more short form content on YouTube as well. Our YouTube channels also, DJ Media. We're going to start doing a little more clips and quick hits and stuff like that to keep the content stream flowing. Again, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube are DJ Media. iTunes, podcasts, and Spotify is where you can get just the straight up audio podcast form. That's about it. Again, thank you everybody for listening. May all of those souls who have died in the most tragic way rest in peace, and have a good night.